chosen one. Before you dismiss this moment as coincidence, pause and consider something. The fact that you are hearing these words right now may be revealing more than you realize. Long before you consciously decided to watch this message, a subtle movement had already begun within your reality. Certain moments arrive with an energy that feels impossible to explain, and this is one of them. Not because the universe suddenly decided to speak, but because there comes a point when your awareness becomes capable of recognizing signals that have been surrounding you all along. Most people pass by these moments without ever noticing them. They remain distracted by noise, pulled in countless directions, unable to recognize when destiny quietly taps on the door. But you are here, and that matters. Before we continue, there is something important you need to understand. Give this message your full attention. Step away from distractions. Allow yourself to be present. What unfolds during this period is not merely information meant to entertain you. It carries the potential to awaken something deeper, something that's been waiting beneath the surface of your daily life. Trust the feeling that brought you here. Trust the instinct that told you not to scroll past. Because if even the smallest voice inside you is urging you to stay and listen, then there is likely a reason that voice is speaking now rather than later. Also, take a moment to support this message and subscribe, because what is unfolding during this week carries significance that many people will overlook until long after the opportunity has passed. Now, listen carefully, because the period between June 8th and June 13th is not simply another sequence of ordinary days passing on a calendar. It represents a crossroads, a chapter that was quietly forming long before you became aware of it. Everything begins on June 8th when Venus enters Cancer. To most people, this may appear to be a minor astrological transition, just another movement among countless planetary shifts. But you are being asked to look beyond the surface. This energy does not arrive with dramatic announcements or obvious external events. Instead, it enters quietly, reaching into the emotional landscape within you, into the places where memories have been stored, where attachments still linger, where feelings left unresolved have remained suspended in silence. As Venus moves through Cancer, something inside begins to loosen. Emotional armor that has been worn for far too long starts to soften. Walls that once felt necessary become less rigid. You may not witness dramatic changes in your circumstances immediately. Your career may look the same. Your relationships may appear unchanged. Your daily routine may continue as usual. Yet beneath that familiar surface, a profound recalibration begins. Your heart starts interpreting experiences differently. Situations that once triggered immediate reactions may no longer affect you in the same way. Thoughts that once consumed your attention begin losing their grip. This is often how blessings first arrive, not through disruption, not through spectacle, but through subtle internal transformation. The universe does not always announce elevation before it occurs. Sometimes it prepares you in complete silence, so that the foundation becomes strong enough to support what is coming next. During this period, you are not being called to explain yourself. You are not being called to seek approval. You are not being called to share every insight, every dream, or every step of your healing journey. Something sacred is developing within you, and fragile things require protection while they are still forming. There may be moments when you feel compelled to explain the changes you're experiencing. You may want others to understand why you feel different. You may feel tempted to prove that growth is happening. Resist that temptation. Not everyone is meant to understand what is unfolding within you while it is still in progress. There are people who will sense your transformation before they can see evidence of it. There are energies around you that recognize your expansion even when no words have been spoken. Revealing too much before the process stabilizes can scatter the momentum that is currently gathering strength. Allow others to misinterpret you if they must. Allow them to assume nothing is changing. Let them see only the surface while the deeper work continues unseen. Everything important is happening beneath the visible layer, and when the results finally emerge, they will speak more clearly than any explanation ever could. Then June 9th arrives, bringing one of the most significant alignments of this period, as Venus forms an exact conjunction with Jupiter in Cancer. This alignment creates a powerful emotional gateway, one that extends far beyond material opportunity or external success. This is an expansion of the heart itself. This is where healing and possibility meet each other in a way that cannot be manufactured through effort alone. As this energy unfolds, you may feel emotions rising unexpectedly. Certain feelings may intensify without warning. Old memories may surface. Vulnerability may feel stronger than usual. There may even be moments when you wonder why you feel so open. Yet what is happening is not weakness, it is release. It is the gradual dissolving of emotional weight that has been influencing your life far longer than you consciously realized. This conjunction is not arriving to create suffering. It is arriving to remove what has been restricting your growth. The freedom offered by this alignment is not dramatic. It does not demand attention. Instead, it settles deep within you, quietly changing the foundation from which you live. Somewhere within your emotional history exists pain connected to trust, love, safety, and belonging. Whether fully acknowledged or not, that pain has influenced your decisions. It has shaped your expectations. It has affected who you allowed close and how quickly you retreated when uncertainty appeared. Yet under this Venus and Jupiter conjunction, something begins to complete itself. A chapter starts closing, not through force, not through confrontation, but through a subtle internal shift. Gradually, you notice that familiar emotional triggers lose their power. Patterns that once pulled you into repetitive cycles no longer feel irresistible. The craving for validation weakens. In its place emerges a deeper sense of stability, a quiet confidence that no longer depends upon external approval. This is what emotional liberation often feels like. Not a dramatic breakthrough, but the realization that an old wound no longer controls your decisions. It is the discovery that your peace has become stronger than your fear. As the energy progresses through June 10th, June 11th, and June 12th, another shift begins to take shape through the influence of the Moon transit communication phase. This is where the next layer of the journey unfolds. The emotional clarity you have been receiving now encounters the desire to communicate. You may feel compelled to respond to someone. You may feel driven to explain yourself. You may feel the urge to address situations that suddenly return to your awareness. Yet this period is not measuring how much you can say. It is measuring how conscious you have become. Not every thought deserves expression. Not every emotional impulse requires action. There is tremendous power in choosing restraint. There is wisdom in remaining silent when speaking would only reconnect you to patterns you have already begun to transcend. This moment is not asking you to convince anyone that you've changed. It is asking you to embody that change without needing external recognition. If you can hold your center rather than reacting impulsively, you begin accelerating toward a much larger transformation. At the same time, something familiar may attempt to re-enter your reality. It will not appear dangerous. In fact, it may feel surprisingly comfortable. It could arrive through a message, a conversation, or a memory that resurfaces without warning. It may involve a person from your past or a circumstance you believed had already been resolved. Yet this appearance is not accidental. It serves as a test of alignment. If you respond through outdated emotional habits, you risk reopening a cycle that was already reaching completion. You step back into an identity that no longer reflects who you are becoming. This is the true challenge. The obstacle is not something unfamiliar. It is something familiar disguised as safety. Your task is to recognize the difference. Growth is not defined solely by what you learn. It is defined by what you no longer return to, even when returning feels easy. Then June 13th arrives, and the atmosphere shifts once again as Venus entering Leo begins to take effect. What was previously hidden starts becoming visible. The internal transformation that developed quietly now begins radiating outward. Confidence emerges naturally, not because others validate you, but because something inside has fundamentally changed. Your presence becomes stronger. The way you carry yourself evolves. People begin noticing something different about you, even if they cannot identify exactly what it is. This is the stage where your energy becomes difficult to ignore, not because you are demanding attention, but because you no longer feel compelled to hide your light. You have moved through silence. You have moved through emotional release. You have moved through emotional release. You have moved through tests of awareness and restraint. Now you begin stepping into a version of yourself that reflects everything you have integrated. This does not mark the end of the journey. It marks the beginning of a new chapter where internal alignment starts producing visible results in the external world. And somewhere during this week, a moment arrives that many people will miss entirely. It comes quietly. It is not announced by dramatic signs or extraordinary events. It occurs within your choices, within your awareness, within your willingness to embody what you have learned. This is the point where your timeline begins solidifying, not according to what you wish for, but according to who you have become. The universe is responding less to your words and more to your state of being. That is why this week carries such importance. The version of yourself you choose to operate from during these days influences everything that follows. You are no longer standing on the sidelines, waiting for your future to appear. You are actively selecting it through your actions, your restraint, and your awareness. Once this alignment becomes established, its direction becomes increasingly difficult to alter. That explains the pressure you may feel. That explains the intensity building beneath the surface. What you are experiencing is not anxiety, it is heightened awareness. You are standing at the threshold where one version of yourself is fading and another is becoming permanent. And if you have been paying attention, you may have already started noticing the evidence. The way you think is no longer the same as it once was. Perhaps one of the clearest signs that this transformation is already underway is something you have quietly noticed within yourself. The speed of your reactions has changed. Situations that once would have immediately captured your attention, triggered strong emotions, or pulled you into cycles of overthinking now seem strangely distant. What once felt urgent no longer carries the same weight. What once demanded your emotional energy now appears smaller, less significant, almost as though it belongs to someone you used to be rather than the person you are becoming. Yet alongside this shift comes another experience that can feel unsettling if you do not understand what is happening. There is often the sense of standing between two realities. One version of your life is fading, but the next version has not fully arrived. You are no longer anchored in old patterns, yet you have not completely settled into your new identity. This space can feel lonely. It can feel uncertain. There may be moments when you wonder why familiar things no longer resonate the way they once did. There may be moments when clarity seems absent and everything feels suspended in stillness. But what you are experiencing is not confusion. It is transition. It is the natural process of your energy detaching from an identity that can no longer contain your growth. As that separation occurs, temporary emptiness may emerge. Old motivations lose their influence. Old attachments loosen their grip. Familiar emotional structures begin dissolving. Yet this emptiness is not a void. It is sacred space. It is room being created for something greater to enter. It is the clearing away of what no longer serves you, so that a more aligned version of yourself can take shape without interference from the past. You are not lost in this process. You are moving between timelines. You are standing in the space where one reality ends and another begins. And it is within this in-between territory that the deepest transformations often occur. As the days continue unfolding, another realization starts becoming impossible to ignore. Not everyone is destined to walk beside you into this next chapter. This truth can be difficult to accept, because part of you may still want to carry everyone forward. Yet growth does not operate according to personal preference. It follows alignment. This separation is not occurring because you are superior to anyone else. It is not a judgment of worth. It is simply the result of your path evolving in a direction that not everyone is prepared to follow. Your energy is changing. Your perspective is changing. Your perspective is changing. As a result, certain relationships begin responding differently. You may notice that conversations which once felt effortless now require unusual effort. Interactions that once energized you may suddenly feel draining. Connections that once felt deeply important may begin fading without conflict or explanation. There may even be moments when you question yourself and wonder whether you are responsible for the distance. But you are not doing anything wrong. What you are witnessing is alignment at work. The universe is reorganizing your environment according to where you are headed rather than where you have been. Sometimes people remain, sometimes they drift away. Either way, the process is serving a purpose. The next phase of your journey requires a different atmosphere, a different level of awareness, and a different energetic foundation. Anything incapable of supporting that future naturally begins losing its place in your present. Although much of this week unfolds quietly, subtle confirmations begin appearing along the way. They're easy to overlook if you are expecting dramatic signs. Yet, if you remain aware, you will notice them. Opportunities emerge without struggle. Circumstances resolve themselves without confrontation. Solutions arrive before problems have a chance to grow. Questions receive answers without extensive searching. These moments may seem small at first, but they carry profound significance. They are reminders that your alignment is producing results. They are evidence that your willingness to move in silence is creating momentum. They are proof that restraint often generates more power than reaction. The blessings arriving during this period may not resemble what you originally imagined. They may come disguised as simplicity. They may arrive through unexpected channels. They may appear so naturally that you almost fail to recognize them. This is why awareness matters. Those who are constantly searching for dramatic manifestations often overlook the quiet miracles already unfolding around them. Real transformation rarely arrives all at once. It unfolds layer by layer, each shift building upon the one before it. At some point during this week, a particular challenge may arise. It may happen suddenly. A powerful urge to speak may emerge within you. You may feel compelled to defend yourself. You may want to explain your actions. You may feel a strong desire to prove to someone that you have changed. In that moment, your reasoning may seem completely justified. The impulse may feel impossible to ignore. Yet this is another important test. The need to explain often belongs to an older version of yourself. It comes from the identity that relied on validation. It comes from the part of you that needed approval to feel secure. But the version of you currently emerging is no longer dependent upon those things. Your evolution does not require witnesses. Your transformation does not require permission. If you can remain centered during that moment, if you can choose silence over reaction, something remarkable occurs. You strengthen your new identity. You demonstrate to yourself that old patterns no longer dictate your behavior, and that internal confirmation becomes far more powerful than any external validation ever could. Even if there are moments when this journey feels solitary, understand that you are not navigating it without support. There is an unseen layer of protection operating around you during this period. It does not announce itself. It does not demand recognition. Yet its presence can be felt through the way events unfold. Situations that might have created complications somehow resolve themselves. Interactions that could have escalated unexpectedly lose momentum. People or circumstances that once consumed your energy gradually lose access to it. This is not random luck. It is the natural result of alignment with something larger than your individual perspective. When you choose awareness instead of reaction, when you move through life with intention rather than impulse, you activate a level of protection that does not need to be forced. It becomes part of your experience. The more you trust it, the more visible its influence becomes. Even during uncertain moments, you are being guided with remarkable precision. Events are not unfolding randomly. Adjustments are taking place continuously, shaping circumstances in ways designed to support your path forward. Beneath everything occurring this week, a breakthrough is quietly forming. You may not be able to see it clearly yet. You may not understand how the pieces fit together. From your current perspective, much of the process remains hidden. This is where trust becomes essential. The mind naturally wants explanations. It wants certainty. It wants to predict outcomes before they arrive. Yet some transformations operate beyond the reach of control. They cannot be forced into existence. They can only be allowed to unfold. There may be periods when everything feels unusually still. You may wonder whether anything is happening at all. Yet stillness should never be mistaken for absence. Beneath apparent silence, preparation is occurring. Final adjustments are being made. Invisible pieces are moving into position. When the breakthrough finally arrives, it may appear sudden. It may seem as though everything changed overnight. But in reality, it has been building quietly for far longer than you realized. That is often how genuine breakthroughs emerge. They are born from sustained alignment rather than dramatic chaos. They remain hidden until the precise moment they are ready to become visible. Out of every possible moment, every possible path, and every possible message you could have encountered, you are receiving these words now. That matters more than you may currently understand. It suggests that some part of you already recognizes the shift taking place. Long before your mind found an explanation, something deeper sensed the movement. Something within you understood that this was a moment worth paying attention to. That recognition was not learned. It was remembered. It was carried within you long before today. That is why this message resonates. That is why you stayed, not because you were seeking entertainment, not because you needed temporary inspiration, but because something within you recognized a truth it was already prepared to receive. You are not falling behind. You have not missed your opportunity. You are positioned exactly where you need to be as this crucial period unfolds. What happens next will depend upon how consciously you move forward from here. Right now, an invisible doorway is opening before you. It is not located in the physical world. No one can point to it. No one can hand it to you. It exists within the realm of awareness. Most people overlook it because they are waiting for external confirmation that change is happening. They search for dramatic evidence. They expect transformation to arrive with noise and certainty. Yet your path requires something different. You are being invited to feel the shift rather than merely observe it. Perhaps you have already sensed it. A subtle pull, a quiet knowing, an awareness that something significant is changing, even if you cannot fully explain why. That sensation is the doorway, and crossing through it does not require force. It requires conscious choice. Every time you respond from wisdom instead of habit, you move forward. Every time you choose growth instead of repetition, you advance further into the reality waiting for you. Eventually, there comes a point where the old version of yourself can no longer follow. There is no return because the person who would return no longer exists. Yet before that transition completes itself, one final layer may surface. There remains a version of you that has been holding on, not out of resistance, but out of uncertainty. This version was shaped by survival. It learned to protect itself through fear, caution, and familiar reactions. During this week, it may make one final appearance. Old thoughts may re-emerge. Old emotional patterns may briefly return. Doubts about your progress may arise unexpectedly. But do not mistake this for failure. This is not regression. It is release. The old self rarely disappears without being acknowledged. It rises one last time before dissolving. If you can witness it without becoming it, if you can allow it to pass without identifying with it, then an important cycle reaches completion. A pattern that may have repeated for years finally comes to an end, and when that cycle closes, a tremendous amount of energy becomes available to support your future rather than repeating your past. If you have been feeling more emotional than usual, more reflective than usual, or unusually sensitive to the energy around you, there is a reason. This heightened awareness is not random. It is a natural consequence of alignment. As your consciousness expands, clarity increases. And clarity does not only reveal what belongs in your life, it also reveals what no longer belongs. That is why this process can feel intense, because every illusion begins losing its power the moment you see it clearly. What is becoming increasingly impossible to ignore during this period is the way clarity begins stripping away every layer of distortion that once clouded your perspective. It does not arrive as a dramatic revelation all at once. Instead, it unfolds gradually, exposing realities that were always present, but difficult to recognize while you were still attached to old assumptions. Suddenly, you begin seeing your circumstances with greater accuracy. You see the truth within your relationships. You recognize recurring behaviors that have shaped your experiences. You become aware of patterns that once operated automatically beneath the surface. At first, this level of honesty can feel intense because clarity removes the comfort of illusion. Yet, this process is necessary. Without seeing things as they truly are, meaningful movement becomes impossible. The heightened awareness emerging within you is not designed to create suffering. It exists to strengthen your perception, to sharpen your understanding, and to help you navigate this important transition without becoming trapped in the confusion that once defined previous chapters of your life. What you are experiencing is not increased fragility, it is expanded consciousness. You are not becoming more vulnerable to life. You are becoming more capable of recognizing what aligns with your truth and what does not. Because of that shift, certain experiences that once felt acceptable now feel noticeably different. Environments you previously tolerated may suddenly feel exhausting. Dynamics you once justified may now seem misaligned. Situations that once appeared normal begin creating discomfort. This change is not imagined. It is the direct consequence of your energy evolving. As awareness rises, your ability to remain comfortable in spaces that contradict that awareness naturally decreases. This can create temporary tension because it forces you to confront areas where you have been settling for less than what truly supports your growth. It reveals where familiarity has been prioritized over authenticity. It highlights moments when you compromised your alignment simply because remaining comfortable felt easier than embracing change. Yet the energy supporting you now will not allow those compromises to continue unnoticed. What once felt manageable no longer feels sustainable. Your spirit begins rejecting conditions it previously accepted. Although that realization can be uncomfortable, it is also one of the clearest signs that meaningful growth is occurring. You are becoming unwilling to remain in environments that restrict your evolution, and that willingness creates the space necessary for better opportunities, healthier connections, and more aligned experiences to enter your reality. At some point during this week, a seemingly ordinary decision may appear before you. On the surface, it may not look significant. Others may not even notice it. Yet internally, you will recognize its importance immediately. It will feel like standing at a crossroads between who you used to be and who you are becoming. One path will lead back toward familiarity. The other will require trust. One choice will offer comfort because it is known. The other will require growth because it is new. In that moment, you will be invited to choose yourself, not the version shaped by fear, not the version conditioned by old habits. The version emerging through awareness. Choosing alignment over comfort rarely feels easy at first. In fact, it can feel isolating. It can feel uncertain. It can even feel unnatural, because growth often requires stepping beyond what is familiar. Yet every time you make that choice, you strengthen your connection to the path that truly belongs to you. You demonstrate that old patterns no longer control your decisions. You reinforce the identity that is currently forming. And that internal confirmation does more than change your mindset. It sends a signal outward. It begins influencing circumstances, opportunities, and experiences so they can reflect the reality you are actively choosing. This is how transformation unfolds, not through a single dramatic event, but through repeated alignment with the person you are becoming. During this process, it is important to understand that nothing is judging you. The experiences arising throughout the week are not punishments, they are reflections. At an energetic level, the universe responds to what you consistently embody rather than what you merely desire. Intentions matter, but embodiment carries greater influence. That is why your reactions feel especially important during this period. The way you respond to uncertainty, the way you hold your energy under pressure, the way you navigate moments that challenge your awareness, all of it creates feedback. If fear directs your actions, you strengthen the presence of fear within your reality. If awareness guides your choices, you strengthen alignment. The situations appearing before you are remarkably precise because their purpose is not to punish. Their purpose is to reveal. They show you your current state of being with extraordinary accuracy. They help you recognize where you truly stand rather than where you imagine yourself to be. Once that truth becomes visible, you gain the power to adjust, to choose differently, and to realign immediately. This journey has never been about perfection. It has always been about awareness. As the week continues unfolding, something remarkable begins happening within you. The identity that has been forming beneath the surface starts feeling increasingly natural. What once required conscious effort begins becoming instinctive. Doubt loses strength. Certainty grows. You stop relying so heavily on outside opinions to determine what is right for you. Instead, you begin trusting your own inner guidance. Confidence emerges quietly. It does not demand attention. It does not seek validation. It simply exists. This is one of the clearest indicators that the transformation is genuine. It is no longer something you are striving toward. It is something you are becoming. Your sense of self gradually detaches from past experiences and becomes rooted in present awareness. From that foundation, your actions gain greater intention. Your choices become more precise. Your direction becomes clearer. What you are establishing is not a temporary emotional state. It is a new internal foundation capable of supporting the next stage of your evolution. Eventually, there comes a point where the inner changes become impossible to contain. What has been occurring beneath the surface begins expressing itself externally. When this happens, it may seem sudden, Opportunities appear unexpectedly. Situations that felt complicated begin resolving themselves. People respond to you differently even though nothing obvious has changed. Yet the reality is that these developments are not sudden at all. They are the visible results of everything that has been aligning quietly in the background. Internal transformation eventually reaches a threshold where it starts influencing external reality in unmistakable ways. Once that threshold is reached, the connection becomes impossible to ignore. You begin understanding why this week required patience. You begin understanding why silence mattered. You begin understanding why awareness and restraint were necessary. Without those qualities, the foundation would not have been stable enough to support what is now arriving. By this point, something within you has become established in a way that cannot easily be reversed. You may never speak about it publicly. You may never explain it to anyone, yet your energy has changed, and people around you can sense it whether they understand it or not. There is a different quality in your presence now, a calm strength, a quiet intensity, a deeper certainty. You no longer react from the same emotional patterns. You no longer pursue the same distractions. You no longer allow familiar cycles to define your identity. Because of that shift, your energy becomes increasingly noticeable. Some individuals will naturally feel drawn toward it. Others may feel uncomfortable in its presence. Regardless of how they respond, the transformation is being recognized. Not because you are attempting to attract attention, but because you are attempting to attract attention, but because authentic alignment naturally expresses itself. Once inner change reaches a certain depth, it no longer needs to announce itself. It becomes visible through presence alone. As your energy grows clearer, some relationships may respond unexpectedly. Certain people were connected to an older version of you. They understood your previous habits, your previous reactions, and your previous level of awareness. Now they sense that something has changed, even if they cannot identify exactly what it is. This may create distance. Conversations may become less frequent. Communication may feel different. There may even be moments when you feel tempted to restore things exactly as they were. Yet it is important to understand that what is leaving your life is not being taken away. It is being released because it no longer belongs within the reality you are creating. You are not losing people. You are moving beyond connections that cannot accompany you into this next chapter. Although that process can feel uncomfortable, it serves a purpose. The future unfolding before you requires space. It requires room for new experiences, new opportunities, and new alignments. The past cannot continue occupying every corner of that space. One of the greatest misunderstandings people have about blessings is the expectation that they must arrive dramatically. Many wait for extraordinary signs. They expect transformation to announce itself loudly. Yet the blessings surrounding this week often arrive differently. They emerge quietly. They enter your life without seeking recognition. Sometimes they appear as a sense of peace replacing tension. Sometimes they arrive as an opportunity that requires surprisingly little effort. Sometimes they emerge as a door opening where resistance once existed. Because these gifts are subtle, they can be overlooked by those who are not paying attention. Yet if you remain present, you will recognize them immediately. You will feel the difference before you fully understand it. You will sense that something has shifted in your favor, even before visible evidence appears. This is the nature of aligned blessings. They do not arrive through chaos. They arrive through a calm certainty that life is beginning to support your growth in new ways. Then, just as everything starts feeling stable, one final challenge may appear, an opportunity to reveal everything, an invitation to explain your journey, a moment where sharing feels justified. It may seem like the perfect time to speak, yet this serves as the final test of discipline. The strength developed throughout this week has been built through your ability to preserve your energy rather than disperse it prematurely. If you can remain grounded one more time, if you can trust the process without seeking validation, you solidify everything you have been building. You confirm that your worth no longer depends upon external approval. You demonstrate that your alignment is genuine. And within that confirmation, your energy reaches a level of stability that becomes extremely difficult to disrupt. This is the point where transformation stops feeling temporary and starts becoming permanent. Trust the guidance that has brought you here because it did not carry you this far without purpose. If something within these words resonated with you, if you felt an internal shift while listening, then support this message. subscribe, and remain connected. What is unfolding is not a single event. It is a transition already in motion. Continue moving quietly. Continue paying attention. Continue honoring your awareness, and allow the blessings already finding their way toward you to keep arriving naturally.